Chapter 46. The next one through the door was the Empress of the Harpies, the Demon Lord Frey. Milam had mentioned her before, but nothing could have prepared me for the sheer impact of her entrance. She was explosively erotic. Every movement radiated a kind of lethal grace, and her perfectly sculpted body was practically a weapon. My gaze unintentionally drifted for a second too long. How does she even fly with those? Wouldn't the wind resistance be off the charts? Before I could fully spiral into useless aerodynamics, a cold voice slipped into my mind. My lady, Ren said flatly, at this rate, I'd categorize you closer to the sin of lust than gluttony. And your posture, it's slipping. You've already made several facial errors. I suppose I'll need to give you a full course correction in elegance when we return. A chill ran up my spine. That wasn't a suggestion, that was a promise. And just when I tried to mentally regroup. Indeed, Seal added, her voice unusually cool. You were staring for far too long, Master. I'd advise you to keep your composure, especially in a room filled with predators. Even Seal was joining in. Wait, I didn't mean, it was analytical, but I couldn't defend myself. I could already feel Ren silently preparing a training in grace and decorum lecture set, and Ciel's silence after that spoke volumes. So instead, I straightened my back, fixed my posture, folded my hands neatly on my lap, and did not look at Frey again. Only 2 more left to arrive. If I survive this night, I'm definitely due for a long nap I don't even need. What really drew my attention, though, were Frey's attendants. One of them was another harpy, big-breasted, young, and frankly lascivious enough to distract even the most disciplined minds. The way she moved was practically designed to catch attention. The other one was a massive man. His body brimmed with magical energy almost on Frey's level. Huge, eagle-like wings spread from his back, and he had a lion-shaped mask covering his face. A lion. Before I could dwell on that too long. That's carrion, isn't it? Both Seal and Ren chimed in at once through thought communication. I blinked. Wait, seriously, wasn't he supposed to be dead? Unlike that woman, Luminous, Ren continued, voice a touch sharp, his acting is pathetic. He's practically broadcasting who he is. Seal followed up smoothly. My analysis concludes with high probability he is carrion, he didn't even suppress his aura properly. So much for playing dead, huh? I guess he's trying to pull off some kind of infiltration stunt, but seriously, what's with all these demon lords and dramatic costume plays? Between Luminous's maid act and Carrion's lion-headed nonsense, it felt like I was trapped in a theater troupe. Still, it was good news. If Carrion was alive, then Milam hadn't actually killed him, which meant she must have been acting under some kind of pressure after all. That alone made this meeting feel worth attending. Now if only the rest of these guests would stop being so terrifying. As I observed the hall, something suddenly shifted. The air felt colder, sharper, like the moment before a storm hits. A soft breeze brushed past me, even though the chamber had no wind. I turned and that's when I saw her. No, him, a blonde-haired beauty, stepping into the room with elegance that seemed almost divine. His features were so flawless, they looked sculpted by the gods themselves. Graceful, refined, and far too pretty to be real. He walked straight toward me without hesitation. You are Rimuru. I blinked. Yeah, but, instinct almost had me follow up with, yeah, but who are you? But then it clicked. There were only 4 demon lords left to show up. Milam, Clayman, Carrion, who was clearly already here in a lion mask, and then Leon, blonde hair, called the Platinum Devil, known for his blinding beauty. Oh, oh, you're Leon, did you need something? His response came without a pause, voice calm and composed, yet brimming with a silent pressure. Yes, I am Leon. And no, I need nothing from you. The sight of you brought back some memories, as all. He turned and walked away just as smoothly as he arrived, leaving only the soft echoes of his footsteps behind. Right, that was Leon Cromwell, all right. The man was stunning, almost surreal in his beauty. He was said to be a former human, but there was nothing ordinary about him now. He radiated an overwhelming sense of nobility and danger, like a blade hidden beneath silk. And now I was sharing a table with him. And I brought back memories, huh? Well, I guess that made sense. My face did resemble Shizu's. Shizu's dead, Leon. I said it flatly, not to be cruel, just stating a fact. He didn't even flinch. I know, he replied coolly. And of course she would be. She took an Ifrit but refused to become a magic born. This wasn't how you talk about someone like Shizu. Not someone who carried that much pain, that much responsibility, and still died with dignity. So I blurted it out before I could stop myself. She asked me to punch you out for her. Mind letting me do that? The words hung in the air like a blade. I wasn't trying to provoke anything. I didn't even mean to say it. But something about Leon's attitude rubbed me the wrong way. Like he'd written her off, like she was just another failed experiment to him. Leon, though, remained composed, serene, even. No, thank you, he said with a slight shake of the head. I wanted her to live as a human being. I even gave her Ifrit as a farewell gift. I see no reason why I deserve a beating for it. HMPH. That didn't make it any less annoying. I took a breath. He simply turned and walked away, cloak fluttering softly behind him. What a disappointment. I figured he'd be enraged, throw out some petty threat, or at least glare at me. But no, he just calmly fired back, like it was nothing. But I do have a bit of an interest in you, Leon added over his shoulder, voice cool and almost amused. If you have an issue with me, I'll happily invite you to come visit. You can turn down the offer, of course, if you think it's a trap. Huh, I let out a slow breath, mind replaying the conversation from the start. No anger, no mockery, no defensiveness. He didn't act like someone who felt guilty. Nor did he sound particularly proud. Just calm. Even that invitation didn't come off as some veiled threat. It felt more like a genuine offer, or at least, a curious challenge. Either he really isn't what I thought he was, or he's so good at acting that even Seal wouldn't catch him slipping. I would still catch him, Master. Seal said in my mind with a soft but confident note. Though, I agree, his reactions were not consistent with hostility. At most, mild curiosity. Shizu didn't seem to hate him, either. That moment she asked me to punch him, it was almost lighthearted. Not vengeance, not rage. More like closure. I thought she said that because she was kind, but maybe it really was just that. A final wish, not out of spite, but lingering disappointment. Yeah, whatever the case, this wasn't the time to dwell on it. I'll think about it later. Right now, I have more dangerous things to focus on. All right, I'll do that. Feel free to send an invitation, if you get around to it. I didn't say it as a challenge. I meant it. I will go. And when I do, I'll figure out what kind of person Leon Cromwell truly is. Friend or foe, I'll see for myself. I didn't say anything more. There was no need to. Leon gave me a long glance, the corner of his mouth twitching ever so slightly, maybe annoyed, maybe amused. Then, I will, assuming you walk out of this meeting hall alive, that is. Blunt, unapologetically so. With that, he turned and settled into the seat just to my left, crossing one leg over the other with elegance that somehow didn't come off as arrogant, just natural. Like he belonged here. HMPH. Was that a threat, or just a statement of fact? But that didn't matter, because I had no intention of dying here. And if anyone did try something, well, I wasn't alone. Seal was with me, and I had more than one trump card ready. These proceedings all unfolded in the hour after we reached the meeting hall at midnight. It looked like the older demon lords had been guided in first, with me getting a head start simply because I happened to be traveling with Ramirez. Not that it was any kind of official rule, Leon clearly had the ability to transport himself here, after all. Now, only two were left, Clayman and Milam. Just when I thought the Walpurgis Council was finally about to begin, I received a ping through thought communication. Lady Rimuru, may I brief you for a moment? Benimaru's voice. Calm, efficient, and, considering the timing, likely bearing good news. Go ahead, I replied, masking my thoughts while continuing to maintain a passive, neutral face toward the others seated around the table. Based on Benimaru's report, we had a general idea of Clayman's story. Just as I was processing Benimaru's update, another thought communication came in, this time from Soe. Lady Rimuru, we've successfully seized Clayman's headquarters. Nice. That was faster than expected. Benimaru's strategy really was flawless. Also, yes, you now command an army of the undead. I'm sorry, what? I blinked. Had I missed a meeting? Lady Shuna said she'll explain it to you later. Soe, yes, you're being vague on purpose. Apologies, my lady. It is difficult to explain. He was definitely avoiding the details. That alone told me something ridiculous must have happened. I resisted the urge to bury my face in my hands. Just for today, I needed to maintain my poise. Great, I leave them alone for a few hours, and now I'm the queen of the undead. And apparently, Shuna was the star of the show. Soe made a point of emphasizing her performance, even above Hakuro's and his own. What in the world did she do? Politely purify the enemy into obedient skeletal servants? Gracefully charm the souls right out of them? Seal, why do I get the feeling I've created something terrifying? Open double angle bracket. That is not a feeling, master. That is a confirmed outcome. Close double angle bracket. I groaned internally. The ornate door across from me still hadn't opened. Clayman and Milam were running late. Or maybe they just wanted to make an entrance. Either way, the real storm hadn't even begun yet. And somehow, I'd already become the leader of an undead army without even lifting a finger. And then, just as I finished reading the reports, Clayman finally appeared before me. He was more handsome than I had imagined. Sharp, refined features and high cheekbones, he looked like one of those perfectly sculpted noble villains out of a fantasy drama. His posture screamed arrogance, and he carried himself like the world owed him an apology. Honestly, the whole thing felt like a performance. His outfit, expensive, overly so, layers of elegant fabric, polished boots, and rings that glittered with magical energy. He was clearly flaunting his unique great equipment like it was part of his identity. And yeah, I could see how that'd make him a decent enough fighter. But to me, it all reeked of overcompensation. The most curious thing, though, wasn't his clothes or the smug look on his face. It was the fox in his arms. Small, beautiful, and radiating power so thick I could feel the magicals crawling across my skin. It was no ordinary creature. In fact, it might have been on par with a demon lord, power-wise. My eyes narrowed slightly as I examined it. That was no pet. That was an attendant. A highly dangerous one, at that. Open double angle bracket. The being in his arms possesses volatile, unstable energy. Estimated to be a pseudo-demon lord class entity. Close double angle bracket. Of course, a demon lord would have powerful servants. But, this one, something about it felt off. It was like the energy coming from the fox was twisted, like it had been warped into something unnatural. A forced evolution, maybe. Clayman's smirk never faded as he made his way to his seat, acting like the star of the show. I didn't need Ciel's analysis to guess that he was waiting to flaunt something. His entire entrance screamed, "Look at me." But for now, I kept my expression neutral. He wanted to act the part of a big shot. Fine, I'd watch, quietly, like a proper audience member. Anyway, Milam followed behind him, completing the night's attendee list. With her, all the chairs were filled. Every demon lord, every monster cloaked in human form, really, was now present. Each one capable of leveling nations without even trying. Real monsters, no exaggeration. Just sitting at this table meant accepting that the people here could burn you to ash the moment you let your guard down. And then, I saw it. One of the most shocking, jaw-dropping, absolutely insane sights of my life. "Move it, you half-wit." Clayman suddenly punched Milam right in the side of the head. Full force, like it was nothing, like she was some kind of badly behaved servant. That Milam, sit yourself down, you stupid dunce, he snapped, not even flinching. Like he actually thought he could boss her around. My entire body tensed. For a second, I felt the blood in my body go still. Then it boiled. I was this close to leaping out of my chair and cutting him down where he stood. I had to clench my fists, hard, to hold it back. Not yet, not until the rules were followed, and I could publicly expose him. Just a bit longer, I had to wait for my moment. But what the hell was going on? That was Milam Nava, the girl who called herself the strongest demon lord. Milam the Destroyer. If it was her punching Clayman, that'd just be her usual routine. But this was Milam, actually being controlled. Open double angle bracket number. She is not under control. She is acting. Close double angle bracket. Ciel's voice rang out calmly in my mind, slicing through the chaos in my heart like a scalpel. Wait, what? Open double angle bracket master. Her aura is entirely stable. No signs of brainwashing, possession, or magical coercion. Judging by micro-expressions and minor inconsistencies in behavior, I conclude she is pretending. Close double angle bracket. So Milam was just playing along. Now that I looked again, yeah, her eyes weren't lifeless or dulled. Her posture didn't reek of subjugation or fear. It was exaggerated, almost theatrical. She was faking it, which raised an entirely new set of questions. Why would Milam, of all people, pretend to be under Clayman's thumb? What was her goal? Whatever it was, She wasn't telling me, and now I had to navigate this council with that mystery hanging over my head. Still, I trusted her. And if Seal confirmed it, that was good enough for me. For now. But Clayman, your time's running out. Clayman, meanwhile, was acting like he owned the place, chin high, smug smirk plastered across his face, his whole body language screaming I'm so clever. The way he strutted around, you'd think he was the host of this entire council. His superiority complex was practically radiating off him. And it made my blood boil all over again. You hit Milam, my best friend. Don't think I'll let that slide. Even if she's just pretending, even if this is all some part of her plan, it doesn't change the fact that I saw that punch. That he dared to raise his hand against her. I clenched my fists under the table, quietly swearing to myself. Clayman, don't expect your death to be quick, or painless. I had no intention of letting him go, no matter what excuse he came up with. He was done, his fate was already sealed in my heart. He would pay, not just for his schemes, not just for his manipulations, but for daring to lay a hand on someone precious to me. And so, the Walpurgis Council, a gathering of monsters so powerful the world itself trembled at their names, had officially begun. These were the attendees: Lord of Darkness, Guy Crimson Demon, Ancient and Supreme. Destroyer, Milam Nava, a dragonoid, and one of the oldest and strongest demon lords alive. Labyrinth Master, Romulus, a pixie with dominion over the vast labyrinth and a history as old as time. Earthquake, Dagrul, a giant whose very presence shook the earth. Bloody Lord, Roy Valentine, the Vampire King, graceful and merciless. Sleeping Ruler, Dino, a fallen being, mysterious and lazy, yet dangerously unpredictable. Sky Queen, Frey, ruler of the skies, a harpy with unshakable pride and lethal grace. Marionette Master, Clayman, the Walking Dead, a schemer who dared to orchestrate this farce. Platinum Saber, Leon Cromwell, a former human, dazzling and deadly, veiled in secrets. And then there was me. The slime who dared to call herself a demon lord. They came to judge me. But I came to settle things. Once and for all. After the introductions concluded, the mood in the hall shifted. Everyone turned their eyes toward Clayman, who rose with theatrical flair, his fox-like attendant still curled in his arms. A smug grin danced on his lips as he spread his arms wide, like an actor taking center stage. Very well, he announced, his voice echoing dramatically through the chamber. First, my deepest thanks to all of you for graciously answering my invitation and assembling here tonight. He paused, clearly savoring the spotlight. The tension in the air only grew thicker. It is now time to begin our festival. He raised his hand high and declared, as if the whole world was watching. I hereby declare this Walpurgis Council, convened. As his voice rang out, a quiet ripple of energy spread across the room, like the opening curtain to a grand play. No one clapped, no one cheered. And so, the most dangerous meeting in the world began. With a smile on Clayman's face. And blood in my eyes. Taking advantage of his position as chairman, Clayman began with a self-important speech, his gaze sweeping across the room as if savoring the moment. He looked far too pleased with himself, like he had the whole script already written in his head and just needed everyone else to play their part. When his eyes reached Valentine, they lingered for just a second too long, subtle, but enough to make me suspicious. There was something unspoken there, something calculated. A glance like that didn't happen by accident. Leon sat calmly on my left, his expression unreadable. The seat to my right remained empty, Milam's. Then came Clayman's chair, followed by the vacant spot that should have been Caroline's. Clayman's voice droned on, filled with smugness and self-congratulations, but I forced myself to listen carefully. Every word counted. Here's the executive summary of his story, told as if he were the victim in some grand conspiracy. Caroline supposedly manipulated me into declaring myself a demon lord. His claim was that Caroline's army occupying my city was evidence of our collusion. Then, Caroline incited Farmus to invade the great forest of Jura, relying on my help to repel the attack, and used that as a way to get involved in human politics. After Farmus was defeated, I allegedly used the opportunity to assume the title of Demon Lord, propped up by Caroline behind the scenes. His entire story painted me as a puppet, and Caroline as the scheming mastermind. A neat little package. Too neat. That concludes my case, Clayman finally announced, puffing up with self-importance. I trust you all now understand that Rimuru, that trifling magic born seated over there, is merely a pretender to the title of Demon Lord. I propose that we purge this charlatan here and now. He practically radiated smugness. I could barely keep from sighing aloud. Some of the other demon lords looked visibly bored, at least two seemed to be nodding off. Can't really blame them. That self-indulgent speech of his dragged on way too long. Still, nobody interrupted him. I guess in Walpurgis, the one who called the meeting was allowed to yap for as long as they wanted. But now that the floor was open to everyone else, it was my turn, and I had no intention of staying quiet. At that moment, Rain, the graceful blue-haired maid apparently serving as the event's MC, stepped forward and turned toward me. "We will now listen to testimony from our visitor," she declared, her voice clear and steady. Perfect. I stood, calm and poised. I'd been waiting for this. The truth was mine to present, and Clayman had just handed me the perfect stage. Clayman's expression stiffened the moment the crystal balls began to glow. Each orb floated gently in the air above the table, humming with magic. The first showed the orc disaster's rampage, me stepping in to stop it. The next captured Gelmid in all his slimy, manipulative glory, proclaiming Clayman's name with reckless pride as he tried to crown his little orc overlord. That one alone made Clayman visibly flinch. But the last one was the real showstopper. From Benimaru's aerial perspective, it depicted the siege of Clayman's domain, complete with Clayman's soldiers committing acts that no demon lord with righteous intentions could ever justify. And then came the kicker, Shuna, calm and radiant, wielding holy element magic as she led undead forces into battle, cleansing Clayman's corruption with terrifying precision. What is this? Fabrications. Clayman barked, veins twitching on his forehead. Cheap parlor tricks. I refused to recognize. Oh, shut up, I cut in, folding my arms. Unlike your voice, this evidence doesn't lie. The room was silent. All eyes were now fixed on the images playing before them, eyes narrowing, murmurs starting to ripple. I caught the tiniest twitch at the corner of Guy's mouth, something between amusement and interest. Valentine tilted his head, while Frey leaned forward just a little, brows furrowed. Leon was unreadable as ever. Clayman, though, he looked like a cornered animal, still trying to put on a noble face, but the cracks were showing. While the crystal recordings floated above the table, casting flickering scenes of Clayman's misdeeds across the council chamber, Ren glided about with perfect grace. Her refined black and white maid outfit barely made a sound as she moved between the demon lords, pouring tea with practiced elegance. Her expression remained composed, cool, professional, and unreadable. She made her way to Dagrel's seat, offering him a silent refill. Frey received hers with a curt nod, and Milam, arms folded, expression blank, took her cup with zero reaction, as if her mind was elsewhere. And then, Ren turned. To Clayman. My eyes narrowed. Ren, why him? Even Seal paused, then muttered flatly. This will be entertaining. I didn't know what Ren was thinking, but I knew her well enough to know nothing she did was without reason. She walked to Clayman's seat with the same unshakable poise, and with tea in hand. Clayman barely spared her a glance. Arrogant as ever, he likely assumed even my maid was here to serve him, too full of himself to imagine otherwise. Ren stood beside him, raised the porcelain cup, and in a perfectly smooth, deliberate movement. Splash! The entire cup of steaming tea tipped directly onto his lap. Gah! Clayman let out a strangled yelp, jumping up so fast he knocked his chair backward. A large dark stain spread across his expensive trousers, right over the most unfortunate spot. There was a moment of stunned silence. Then, a few seats down, Dino snorted. Ramirez couldn't help herself. She burst into open laughter, slapping the table. Even Guy glanced sideways, a curious flicker in his crimson eyes. The air in the room shifted. Meanwhile, Milam didn't move. She didn't even blink. Her tea untouched, her gaze stayed on the center of the table as if none of this concerned her at all. Ren, still wearing her usual expressionless mask, bowed elegantly and said in a perfectly exaggerated maid voice. Ah, my sincerest apologies. It appears my hand slipped. She tilted her head slightly, eyes as calm as a winter lake. It seems as though you've wet yourself, Lord Clayman. Clayman trembled, face bright red, aura flaring with rage. Ren reached into her apron and produced a pristine white handkerchief. Shall I clean it? We wouldn't want the other demon lords to misunderstand. You insolent. His hand rose. I saw it, his intent to strike her, clear as day. And I didn't even think. Crack. My chair flew from under me with a single kick and rocketed toward him like a missile. Clayman instinctively ducked, barely in time. The chair grazed his cheek, leaving a thin red scratch as it smashed into the stone wall behind him, splintering apart on impact. The entire room froze. Even the light chuckles from Dino and Romulus died off. Clayman whipped his head toward me, eyes wide with shock and disbelief. Ren, meanwhile, didn't flinch. Even as the chair passed right over her shoulder, she hadn't moved a muscle. Still standing with immaculate posture, she offered Clayman one last graceful bow, completely unbothered. Then, without a word, she turned and walked back behind my chair, now missing, of course, and resumed her place as if nothing had happened. A few of the demon lords were openly watching now. Valentine narrowed his eyes. Dagrel gave a low grunt. Frey arched an eyebrow in amusement. Even Leon spared a glance my way, not with surprise, but quiet evaluation. Guy smirked. I smiled sweetly. Sorry. My leg slipped. He slammed both hands on the table. All of you are willing to put up with this reckless violence. He is making light of us all. Should we not be exacting our judgment upon him at once? He turned to the others, seeking support. But none of the demon lords moved. Some stared blankly. Others, like Dino, just yawned. Romulus was giggling under her breath, and even Guy merely leaned an elbow on the table, watching with growing amusement. What, all of them? I always knew he was a wimp. I met his glare calmly and said, yeah, maybe you're right. Like I said, I don't care about you demon lords at all. All I want is to build a nation that I can enjoy living in. A place where my people can laugh without fear. I need the humans' cooperation for that, so I decided to offer them my protection. I locked eyes with him now, letting my voice drop, sharp as steel. Anyone who gets in the way of that, whether a person, a demon lord, or the Holy Church, is my enemy. Just like you are, Clayman. That silenced the room. I didn't shout, I didn't puff myself up. But my voice carried more weight than Clayman's entire speech. I wasn't here to plead. I was here to speak my truth. Clayman's mouth opened. What? Then, without so much as a word, I casually reached forward and placed my hand on the table in front of me. A flash of magicals pulsed out. In an instant, the massive round table vanished, completely stored away inside Beelzebub. The sudden disappearance caught Clayman off guard. With his palms still braced on the surface, he lost his balance and dropped to one knee with an awkward thud. Ignoring the growing tension, I slowly stepped into the center of the now cleared space, letting my presence settle over the room like a silent weight. Every pair of eyes was on me now. Demon lords, servants, even the ones pretending to nap were suddenly wide awake. I'm not here to pick fights, I said evenly, my voice clear and sharp. I don't mind building alliances or trade relations with other demon lords. That's fine with me. Then I slowly swept my gaze across the circle, finally locking eyes with the red-haired man seated at the far end, the Lord of Darkness himself. But, I continued, if anyone dares to get in my way, if anyone threatens my nation, my people, I will kill them. My tone didn't waver. I wasn't bluffing. There was no need, no matter who they are. I held Guy's gaze as I said it, unflinching. For a moment, the air in the room thickened. Then, Guy Crimson smiled, not mockingly, not insulted. It was a small, quiet thing, confident, perhaps even intrigued. The kind of smile a predator gives when it finds something that might be worth its time. A bold declaration, he said, his voice low and amused. I like that. He didn't scoff, didn't bristle, just that smile, the kind that said let's see if you can back it up. Clayman's face twisted with rage, veins bulging on his forehead. Why does some slime claiming the might of a dragon for herself think she has the right to defy us? The room quieted, not because anyone agreed with him, but because everyone was waiting to see what I'd say next. I didn't rise to his bait. I simply smiled, calm and composed. Whether I'm a slime or not doesn't matter, I said, my voice cutting through the heavy air. And besides, Veldor is my sworn brother. That's a fact, but I'm not here to listen to you go on with your bullshit, all right? I took a step forward, my golden eyes locking onto his. Can we get to the point, please? Just admit it. Phobio, the magic born in that recording, he showed us all how Charybdis was resurrected at your command. Right, those gestures guided him, and it was your will that made it happen. Clayman's lips trembled, he couldn't deny it, not in front of this crowd. Not with the footage playing for all to see. And now, one of your own men transformed into Charybdis and went insane from the power. That's what I'm talking about when I say solid evidence. I paused for a breath, then. If you think I'm defying you, then don't talk. Don't posture. Fight me. Use your own strength, not someone else's. Prove to me you're a real demon lord. I could feel the tension spike in the room. Some of the demon lords leaned forward in interest. Dino cracked one eye open. Frey raised an eyebrow. Even Guy looked mildly entertained. And if you still think I'm bluffing, I said, my tone dropping to a near whisper, then go right ahead. I took another step, because you'll be thinking that, all the way to the grave. I motioned with my eyes to Xian. She smiled, coldly, sharply, and in the blink of an eye, she was upon Clayman. There was no time for him to react. A violent rush of wind cracked through the room as Xian blurred forward. Her fist gleamed with concentrated aura, and in a single breath, she unloaded a flurry of strikes, quick, precise, brutal. A good 30 blows, all in less than a second, thundered into Clayman's torso, stomach, face, shoulder, every weak spot she could reach. A symphony of destruction played on his body. Clayman was knocked clear off his feet, crashing to the floor in a sprawl, coughing violently. Xian turned back toward me with a crisp, almost casual air. Is this all right, my lady? She asked calmly, brushing off her glove. I couldn't help but laugh. Oh, it seems you can't even defeat my subordinate, Clayman, I said, letting my voice echo across the hall. And you call yourself a demon lord? Clayman bared his teeth, rising back to his feet with a wild glare. You bastard. The air around him turned viscous with magical density, and the dark aura enveloping him thickened like smoke. His wounds mended in an instant, bones cracked back into place, bruises vanished, and blood was reabsorbed. That recovery speed was impressive. Far beyond what Orc Lord Geld managed, but as expected of a demon lord. Even if Clayman was the weakest of them, this level of regeneration was par for the course. Still, the important part was that now he saw Xian as a genuine threat. As expected, everything was proceeding according to plan. Then, like clockwork, Clayman turned his eyes toward the one trump card he believed he held. You're up, Milam. That single sentence sent a jolt through the room. The tension was sudden, like taut wire ready to snap. A murmur went around the round table. Even among these monsters, the prospect of Milam fighting seriously was enough to make people stop breathing. Some of them narrowed their eyes. Others went unnaturally still. Milam, the ultimate wildcard. The reason Clayman even dared act so bold here. My eyes met hers. She simply turned her gaze toward me, her eyes devoid emotion, empty and doll-like, her posture loose and disinterested. A far cry from the hyperactive dragon girl I knew. But still, there was no way that was real. I knew it. Then Clayman, wearing the smuggest grin, turned toward Guy. Is there any issue with that, Guy? The red-haired demon lord slowly opened one eye. Not at all, he said coolly. If Milam is aiding you of her own free will, I will not stop her. His voice was low, unreadable. His voice was calm, but even that slight emphasis on free will wasn't lost on me, Ursil. Milam stepped forward silently, her gaze locked on me. No emotion, no hesitation, but that's exactly why I knew. She was faking it. The stage was set. Then Xian returned to my side, standing tall like a loyal knight ready to defend her queen. I gave a mental call to Ranga, and with a soft rumble, he emerged from my shadow, already growing in size until he towered behind me like a living wall of fur and fangs. Across the circle, Milam stepped quietly to Clayman's side, her face still blank, unreadable. The little fox that had been curled in Clayman's arms leapt down to the floor, and in a shimmer of light, it began to swell. Bigger and bigger it grew, magicals rippling off it in waves, until it stood as a mighty beast radiating feral menace. Then, without a word, a third figure emerged from the shadow beneath Clayman's feet. Clad in black robes, face hidden in darkness, the presence it gave off was distinctly sinister. So that's 2 attendants for Clayman, and they weren't just for show. Xian was already tense beside me. Ranga growled low, hackles raised. Both of them were ready for war. Ren, of course, didn't move. She simply observed, her hands folded primly in front of her. She wouldn't be fighting, but she wasn't panicking either. Which left us at a bit of a disadvantage. Milam, the fox-turned beast, and the rogue newcomer made 3 for Clayman's side. I had Xian and Ranga. 2 on 3, and that's assuming Milam was truly our enemy. That's what Beretta's supposed to balance out. Before I could finish the thought, the circle beneath our feet glowed faintly, and then, without warning, an enormous barrier erupted into place. It swallowed the center of the hall whole, a dome of translucent light, cutting us off from the rest of the demon lords. Inside, the world twisted. The space grew impossibly large, stretching out the arena until the rows of chairs around us looked distant and faint, though I could still sense Guy and the others watching just outside the barrier. I should have expected this. This whole showy event space was practically begging for a fight. But Beretta didn't make it in. I muttered aloud, my heart dropping. I hadn't realized the trap until now. The field had been activated before he could step in, he was still on the outside. One of my key pieces had been cut out of the board before the match even started. Damn it, I didn't see that pitfall coming. And just then, Milam, kill her. Clayman's scream rang out across the dome, shrill and commanding, as he pointed directly at me. His voice cracked with arrogance and panic. My eyes locked onto Milam. Expressionless, silent, still not moving, but her gaze was fixed on me, and that was enough to make the tension spike again. This fight wasn't going to be easy. To be continued.